Welcome to week 7 of the Freedom Ticket. I'm glad you made it this far, and this is where we're going to start actually building your product listing. So hopefully by now you've actually found your product, you've done the research, you're ready to go, and we're going to start actually building the listing in this module. So this first module is actually going to talk about just a general overview, just a general introduction to how to build a listing on Amazon. The number one thing you want to focus on your listing on Amazon is your title. We'll go into detail on each one of these in subsequent modules, but right now you just need to know that the title is the most important part of your Amazon listing, especially for indexing, for discoverability, for keyword ranking. It's super important. So whatever you've determined off your keywords, hopefully you found about 20 to 25 different keywords, because remember, I like to see that there's lots of different ways to enter a product. When there's only 2 or 3 keywords that describe your product, it's going to be much more difficult for you to scale that product and to do really well. So the more keywords you have, the better. Now, out of that list of keywords that you have, you're going to be, hopefully you've chosen the 2, 3, or 4 or 5, maybe 3 to 5 keywords that you're going to really focus on. And they may not be your final keywords, because maybe you're going to start in the middle of the pack and later on you're going to have to go after the big money keywords, but these are the keywords you're going to start trying to get rank on. They need to be in your title and an exact phrase order. And now, with your title, you can change your title. And so sometimes the keywords that you think are the best ones may not end up being the best ones, because at the same time, you're going to start running pay-per-click advertising. Some people say you should wait until you have some reviews before you run PPC. I disagree with that. Yes, it does hurt your conversion. Yes, it is a little bit harder to sell if you don't have reviews, but there's no other way to get the data. You've got to get the data. And the way to get that data to see if you pick the right keywords is you got to start running PPC. And so after a couple weeks, you're going to download your PPC reports and see which keywords out of these that you think are the right ones are actually starting to convert. And then you may come in and adjust your title. Most of the changes that you make in your title need to be within the first 30 days of launch. You really want to try to avoid making changes later on to your title, because it sometimes can get a little wonky with the A9 search engine. So it's always best to try to make the most changes you can kind of within that honeymoon period, or that first 30 days. The second most important thing when you're starting to build your listing, obviously your images, but are you going to be your bullet points? And now your bullet points, not everybody will read these bullet points, but they're really important for the A9 search engine and for the indexing. For the people that do read them, they're going to skim them. They also show up on mobile. The top 3, your first 3 bullet points will actually show up on a mobile device. You get 5. In some categories, there's a way to get 6, if you have fabric or something like that. But for most of us, we have 5. And there are character limits in the bullet points. And you want to make sure you don't exceed these character limits. It depends on your category, but for most of it, it's around 200 to 250. But check and see what the Amazon listing guide says. Actually, for your category, it could be less or more. But usually I try to stay around that 200 to 250 character limit, which is basically like 3 or 4 lines of text. You don't want big paragraphs of your bullets. People aren't going to read that. And what a lot of people do is they will take some major benefit and actually put that as the first sentence or the first few words, and actually put that in bold, so that as people skim it, they will actually, if that's all they read, they'll get the main highlights. Other people put emojis in there. Amazon really doesn't like you doing that, but a lot of people, you can use emojis up to emoji release like 6.0. Above that, there's, if you go to Emojipedia, that's a website that you can actually see all the different emojis. There's different release numbers, and everything up to about 6, and it pretty much works on Amazon. The stuff above 6, some works and some doesn't work. But your bullet points are where you need to make an emotional connection to your customer. I would not really put too much technical stuff in there. I would leave that more for your description. Your bullet points, especially the first bullet point, needs to be what makes you different. Why is your product better than the other ones on Amazon? What is your differentiating factor? If all the reviews for your competition are complaining that this handle gets hot when they touch it, when they're cooking something, they touch the handle, it gets hot, and yours doesn't do that, you're going to emphasize that point. This skillet is not hot to the touch, or whatever that major selling point is. You got to make an emotional connection in your bullet points too. It's not so much about here's the benefits of the products. It's not a description. It's the why. What is this going to do? How is this product going to change my life or solve my problem? You want to put yourself in the shoes of the customer and be thinking like, if I own this product, what is it going to do for me? Not that it's made out of 30-pound wood and that it has this steel and 6 nails and whatever. Leave that stuff for the description if that's important, or leave it out if it's not important. But in the bullet points, you want to make that, how is this going to fix my problem, change my life, solve whatever the issue is. That's super important that you do that. It's not just a list of features. You don't want to do features. You want to sell the sizzle, not the steak. So that's super important in your bullet points. Your next main area is going to be your description, and your description is typically about a maximum of 2,000 characters long. Now you can use some basic HTML in the description. Some people don't realize that. Amazon actually says you can't use HTML, but you can use what's called line breaks and paragraph breaks and bold and italic. They allow some basic HTML. You can use an HTML editor that helps create that, or some of the Helium 10 tools will help you with that too. But you want to make sure this is not over 2,000 characters long, including all the spaces and stuff. And this is where you're going to put some additional information, some additional stuff that you couldn't include in your bullet points. Maybe it's more technical stuff. If it's an electronic product, this is where you put the wattage or the plugs or something like that. The more technical things that aren't super important, but people that need to know that are going to find. The other thing about your description is the first 200 characters are super important, because on a mobile device, especially until you have enhanced brand content, once you have enhanced brand content and your brand registered, those pictures and that content will override your description on your listing. But sometimes, even with enhanced brand content, it defaults to the text description. And before you have an enhanced brand content, which is most of you taking the Freedom Ticket right now because you don't have your trademark yet, your description is what's going to show. And those first 200 characters show up on mobile before people hit the button that says more. And your description on mobile shows up above the bullet points. On the desktop, it shows up below. It's kind of buried almost, but on mobile, it's much more prominent. And something like 70 to 75% of people start their search on Amazon on mobile. So you want to make sure those first 200 characters are not just a bunch of jibber jabber or a bunch of technical stuff. It's actually basically kind of almost a repeat of your bullet points, where you're emphasizing the main benefits of this product and making that emotional connection. And so that's super, super important. The other area is your back end. Your back end on Amazon is the part of where people don't see it. The customer doesn't see this. This is where you can add additional information, like additional keywords. You have keyword fields. You have subject matter fields. You have intended use. You have colors and sizes. Doesn't include batteries. You can put warranty information, all that kind of stuff. Amazon uses all that stuff to help index and check for relevancy on your product. So it's super important. It's also where sometimes you see on Amazon, there's filters on the left-hand side. You do a search for something and you get, 5,000 results. But over on the left-hand side, you can actually filter. Sometimes it's by brand name, sometimes it's by size, or by, if it's a skincare product, this is for oily skin or for dry skin. And this is where you're going to put a lot of these. Tell Amazon, how should they help you filter your product? It's in these back-end keywords. A lot of people leave this stuff blank, or they don't fill it in completely, and they're just missing a major, major opportunity. Those are the 4 major areas, plus images, that you want to make sure you pay attention to when you're creating your listing. Now, there's different types. When you create a listing, there's different ways to actually give your listing to Amazon. One way is called a flat file. It's basically an Excel file, which is like a Google spreadsheet or something, but it's an Excel file. You can download these from Amazon, and then you fill out all the fields in there, and then you upload it back. But it's kind of technical, and if you make a mistake or you do something wrong, you can get errors. The flat files are more for people that are very computer savvy, or they're people that have tons and tons of product. They got hundreds or thousands of products, and it's just not really practical for them to sit there and type each one of them in. For most of us, we're going to use the GUI, the GUI, the graphical user interface on Amazon or the web browser, and we're going to go in and we're going to enter our data using the web browser. And this interface makes it really easy to enter stuff. But the problem with the web browser is it doesn't include everything. So sometimes, once you get a little bit more advanced, you might actually want to use flat files because there's some additional data you can upload. But for right now, as a beginner, don't really worry about the flat file. Just use the web interface and you'll be fine. But later on, and we teach some of this in the Helium 10 Elite, the more advanced training, how to use flat files and how to do a little some cool things with that. But in the beginning, I wouldn't, unless you've got thousands of products or something, I wouldn't really worry about those. Now, there's different types of listings on Amazon. There's what's called standalone listings. That's basically the product by itself. It's just a single product. There's a single option, and that's it. There's also what's called parent-child listings. When you have variations, so maybe you have 3 different colors, or you have 3 different sizes, or you have a 1-pack, a 3-pack, and a 5-pack, or something like that. What you do is you create a master listing that's called the parent. It's kind of like the placeholder. And then you create what's called variations underneath that, or in Amazon lingo, it's called children or child. So you create children. So each parent can have 1 child. There is a limit. I'm not sure what it is, but some of them have like 50 or 100 children underneath it, depending on what you're selling. And so you can actually create listings that way, so that if someone searches for any one of those children, it takes them to everything. That's the beauty about variations, is you can actually, each variation will have its own set of pictures. You can change the title, the keywords, the back end. So that can help you actually get more exposure. Maybe you have something that has like hundreds of keywords, and there's no possible way to put those on a standalone file. There's just no room. But by having variations, you could put some of them in the orange color, some of them in the white color, some of them in the blue color, all the important ones in all of them. So that can enable you, no matter how someone's searching, they might find the orange one. They come to your listing, they think, oh, he's also got it in whites and blue and rose gold. I'd rather have the rose gold one. So that's one advantage of having parent and child relationships. Now, in some categories, the parent and child all carry the same BSR. So you have to be careful when you're using tools like X-Ray, because in the sports and outdoors category, and clothing and some jewelry categories, all the children will have the exact same BSR. So you might be doing a research with one of the tools like X-Ray, and it shows that this product has a BSR of 200. And you're like, wow, this thing's selling well. But you go and you look at the listing, and that person could be manipulating the system. Maybe remember earlier I said they got their ab roller with their workout gloves as a variation. And so you're thinking that this ab roller is like crushing it, and you're using that to base decisions on of whether you want to source that product, when really, because it's in the sports and outdoors category, it's the gloves that are crushing it, and the ab roller is not doing so well. One of the ways you can kind of figure this out is by using the review downloader option on Helium 10 on the Chrome extension. You can go into the review downloader and actually download the reviews and take a look at the split of variations. And a lot of times it might say that the gloves, the workout gloves, have I don't know, 1,000 reviews, and the ab roller only has 6. Well, that's kind of an indication of like, hey, it looks like most of the sales are most likely coming on these gloves. And so that's probably the one that has the 200 BSR. So there's a couple categories like that can be a little tricky, and you got to be a little bit careful for. Other people say, I don't want to do variations. I've got 4 different colors of my product. Say it's a makeup mirror, and I've got 4 different colors. Rather than put them as variations, I want each one of them to be standalone. I want to have a single listing for my white one, a single listing for my rose gold one, a single listing for my red one, a single listing for my blue one. And the logic behind that is it takes up more real estate on the page. So if someone types in portable travel mirror and you're able to rank all 4 of those, that's 4 times the chances perhaps that someone will click on one of your listings and actually buy it. But the problem is they're not tied together. So if they click on the rose gold one and they really want a white one, they're not really tied together. So you have to evaluate which is going to be the better way for your circumstance to actually do it. Should you do standalone, or should you do variations? There's 2 schools of thought there, and it depends on what you're trying to do, which way you want to go with that. So those are some things to be thinking about. So another thing with variations is that when you have variations together, you don't get to choose which picture shows up as the quote-unquote parent, as the main image. Amazon determines that, usually based on BSR, not always, but usually based on what's the best selling one. And so that can be limiting too, because if someone's typing in a portable travel mirror and they really want a white one, but they only see your rose gold one, they could perhaps skip over your listing. So you might want to test. It's always possible to set things up as standalone listings and then later on combine them. You can combine them through the GUI in the back end, or you can use a flat file and you can combine them together, and you can do the reverse. You can actually separate them together. That's a little bit more advanced, but you're not married to the way that you choose in the beginning. Just understand that. Now, I just want to give you a few other pro tips about when you're creating your listings. You really want to stand out and differentiate yourself on Amazon. You want to surprise people, give them something they don't expect. Entertain your audience if you can, especially if you have the ability to put video on your listing, because most listings are just really cut and dry. So that's something that can really make you stand out and get people to actually click. You want to get those clicks, get people actually to your page. Remember, you want to tell them, if you can, tell them why in your title. Don't just say this is a barbecue glove for grills. Say something like, this is the barbecue glove that prevents burns, or something like that. Just put some sort of benefit, if at all possible, if you have the space in your title. Now, you are limited in how long your title can be, and you may have a lot of keywords you're trying to get in there, but if you can get creative and put some sort of benefit, like a blender. I know Manny had this example in a presentation he did a while back, where it was a blender. And so he would put in his blender like ice crushing, or what was it, magic blender that crushes through ice easily, or something like that. So people see that and they're searching for a blender, like, oh, what's the difference between this blender? Oh, this one crushes through ice easily. They click on it. So if you're able to put a benefit in the title, that can really, really help. There's also tools where you can check the emotional value of your title. We'll talk about that in the title section. But also, you can use your title to pique curiosity. Maybe you don't want to tell them everything. Leave them wanting more. Tell them just enough, like, oh, wow, I wonder if I click on this, what I'm going to see. Always use strong adjectives whenever you can. Now, don't use crazy, outlandish claims or just crazy stuff. There are some words you can't use, like you can't use the word best or greatest or something like that. You'll see when we get to that section, that module, I have a list for you of words that you need to stay away from that Amazon really doesn't like. But try to use something that's descriptive, that when you read it, it paints a picture in the mind. Think about radio advertising. Some of the best radio advertisings don't just tell you what the product is. They almost tell you like a story. Like as you're listening to the radio ad, you can actually picture yourself there, or picture yourself in that situation. Adjectives are what allow the mind to go there. Always remember to address in your bullet points why people should buy your product over everybody else. You don't necessarily have to compare yourself. It's like, we're the best one and everybody else is really bad and we're really good. I'm not saying that. Just show them, like, this one does not burn your hand. It doesn't burn to the touch, or whatever. And they're going to automatically know, because they've been looking at other ones, that this is definitely better. You can also Google why people, if you're not sure why people buy the product, you can read the reviews of your competition. Use the review downloader from Helium 10, the Chrome extension, and download the reviews. I showed you how to do that in a previous module, how to mine that data and see what people are saying. You can also go to Google or Ask the Public and see what people are typing in, and get an idea. You want to get into the psychology of your customer. You want to think like they're thinking. Don't just think in terms of keywords and cool products. Think of in terms of, why are they searching for this? What are they typing for? What solution are they trying to make? And if you can do marketing around events. If you're doing outside marketing, or even some on Amazon, market around life events. Relationships are good, like weddings and things that are around relationships, love and first children and that kind of thing, life changes. Memories are really good. Clever sayings, family get-togethers, major holidays. If you can do marketing based around those, especially on your outside advertising, it can be really, really great and really, really help you. It's a super powerful means. So those are some quick pro tips, but I'm not done yet. I've got a few more tips for you just to keep in mind. Watch your title lengths. Your title lengths typically truncate, which truncate means they cut off at about 37 characters, 77, and 107. Those are not exact. It depends on the device that somebody is using, but those are where they cut off. So you want to make sure that either you're conveying your message within the 37, 77, and 107, or there's something, that last word makes them want more. And make sure you get the relevancy for your keywords. There's some tools out there, that third-party tools and stuff, that will give you these relevancy numbers. Those aren't really that important, so don't pay too close attention to those. But just make sure that you're relevant. Make sure your sponsored ads. One of the best ways to check relevancy is if Amazon's automatic advertising, auto bidding and stuff is actually showing impressions for the keywords you're going after. That means you're relevant. If it's not showing them for that, you're probably not relevant. So make sure you're showing for that. Your first bullet point, like I said before, should always state the benefits of why your product is better than everybody else's. And remember, the first 200 characters of your product description are super, super important. I just want to emphasize that again. because that's what shows up first on mobile, especially until you have the enhanced brand content after you get brand registered and get your trademark and everything. Your first 3 bullet points are what shows up on mobile. The 4th and the 5th one don't show up. And even in some categories, only the first bullet point. If you got long bullet points, maybe only the first one or part of the first one, part of the whole first one, part of the second one show up. So make sure your bullet points are in order of importance. What's the main thing is first, the next most important thing second, and then so on. Make sure that you don't save some of the really good juicy stuff for the 5th bullet point that nobody ever sees or makes it to. Use all 9 image spots whenever you can. 7 of them will show until they click and they can see the others, but always try to use those. But just remember, you're going to be judged by your worst image. So don't just fill them up to fill them up. Make sure you got good quality images. And remember, you can use basic HTML. Basic HTML is fine for if you want to, in your description, only in your description. In your description, that way it's not just a block of text. It's actually some paragraphs or sentences and it has space between them. Or you can bold letters. You can use like the less than sign and then a lowercase b greater than sign, and then type your word. So if you wanted to make the word like better in bold, you could put lowercase sign, b, greater than sign, the word better, and then to tell it to stop bolding, you put a less than sign, a forward slash, and then a b, and then a greater than sign. That's like the forward slash says stop bolding. And you can Google the basics of that, or there may be something down in the links here that shows you those basics. But you can use the B for bold, the I for italic, the BR for line break, and the P for paragraph. And those will work fine in your description. It helps make it a little bit more readable. And if you can get away with it, don't put your brand name in your title. Amazon actually, according to the rules, that it's supposed to be brand name first, but that most people aren't searching for you by brand. And if they are, there's another field in the back end called your brand. They're going to still find you. So if at all possible, try not to use that valuable real estate for your brand name, and use it more for keywords. It can help you quite a bit. So these are some basics on listing, and in the next few modules, we're going to get into a little bit more specifics and detail on each one of the main ones: the title, the images, the back end, the description, and the bullet points. We'll see you there.